Welcome back to the Weekly News Roundup. I hope you guys are all having a wonderful, wonderful week or weekend or whenever you're watching this show. I don't know. We have a typical day today. We have some privacy. We have some security. We have some AI news, business, and we end in SillyVille, where we have a lot more silly news this week than I've seen for a while, so that's totally awesome. So with that, let's go ahead and get diving on in. Actually, before we do that, you can find all the links, all the resources on the website, switchtolinux.com. You can search for that Weekly News Roundup stuff. And if you haven't seen it already this week, depending on where you're watching this, we did release a new tinfoil hat time. Of course, if you're watching this live tonight on Friday, that'll be tomorrow at noon. But the tinfoil hat is back. Let's go ahead and dive right on in. UK police officers' data stolen in cyber attack on ID supplier. Typically, I might throw an article like this inside of security news. However, this merited a privacy news ranking because this is a third-party company that is creating digital ID cards. The digital ID cards carry with it not just you have the authorization work here. They carry a ton of information in them. And when a company outsources the digital IDs to a third party, that third party has to go through and collect a ton of different data. And so what happens is, as the company here is breached, what happened is information about all of these people were further released as well. And so this third-party company, which third-party companies we have found, there's research into them, and the third-party companies typically have very poor security because nobody knows they exist. Nobody's auditing them. They just come up as a service that just, hey, we're here to solve your need. This is the same thing that happened in the Proctor systems for universities, and the koofiness. Everyone had to work at home. Now you had to have an exam proctored or whatever else. So when these companies have all of this data, what ends up happening is this third party comes in, they're breached. Now all of this data just leaks out all over the place, and nobody even really knew such data was there. And so with that, we had to stop and consider, if you're doing these third-party services, you really got to audit them well and find the ways that you can do them without relying on these external services. So with that, those are kind of your thoughts. Next up, Betweened wants to teach kids how to use social media, not shut them out of it. So this is a tech startup of a person that's like, well, we don't want to have kids on the full-fledged adult Facebook, but we also don't want to dumb them down or tell them you can't be on social media at all. So this person is creating Betweened, which is a social media for 6 to 10-year-olds. 6 to 10-year-olds. Yes, a social media for 6 to 10-year-olds. And so what they are trying to do here is they're saying, well, we're going to create this system and everything has to be curated, and we have these utmost privacy policies and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, and you know what that is, because all of the content down here, where was that at? It was actually on their main website. I have to pull up their whole main website here. Terrifying. So this is one of these startup companies and one of the projects that they get in there, and they're given a lot of money to make this thing happen. So here's Carla Engelbrecht, who apparently got this idea of doing this social media thing because, her life was saved at one point in time. I don't know. There was some irrelevant stuff that I don't understand why in the world was all in there, what it had to do with it. But what she says here is, like kids learning how to drive, kids need to understand privacy and develop media literacy to safely use the internet. Age verification are notoriously easy to bypass, which lets minors access social media sites before they're supposed to, even if they wait until 13, which is the minimum age to use most social media platforms. You don't just hand them the keys. See, there is some validity to that. The problem is, if parents aren't going to walk your kids through how to safely use Facebook, they're not going to walk your kids through how to safely use Betweened. So Betweened gets this idea, we're going to do this so that the kids will have all of the content. I can see our bandwidth is not working super well, so I'm not sure I'll be able to get that site up. Oh yeah, see, it was loading and then the preload stuff comes in. So like if you just get rid of all that preloading stuff inside of websites, they actually load and you can see stuff. It's kind of funny, right? And so with this, she's trying to create this social media platform for kids that is going to be safe for them. And the idea, though, is that under the age of 13, there has to be a lot more privacy protections. How are they getting around that? They have some issues. And I love this one down here. She'd love to keep Between ad-free, but that's not sustainable. Social media platforms depend on ads for revenue. Instead, Between allows brands to create profiles and post content for kids as long as they abide by the platform's editorial guidelines. Since it'll be fully moderated and curated, and it says on their website, which still isn't loading because they have preloading garbage in there, that if I were just stop it and hit the refresh button, see, it'll load something there, but it was not allowing the site to load because there's some preloader in there. Web developers need to stop putting that preloading crap in here. Curated and moderated by experts in child development. We're not on banned news, so I can't tell you what that's code for. Amazon is doing more things. Now, I did throw out one of the other articles that dealt with Alexa for kids, but they actually had a little bit down here about what they're... Was it down here at the bottom? Yeah, down here. So they're releasing these new speakers and other Alexa devices specifically for kids. And Alexa basically is back, and they're now cramming AI power into it. So as you put AI power into Alexa, now as you interact with Alexa, what's happening is now you're actually able to collect all this data, use it, analyze it, and do all of this fun stuff with all of the data that you're now handing them by talking to it. So now Alexa has become even more dangerous because it now has this AI component that is collecting all of your data. That once it's collecting all of your data, is going to be able to use that for all of the ways they train AI, which usually means giving it to third parties to analyze, feeding into the systems, all sorts of other shenanigans in the back door. But they're cramming this new Alexa into pretty much everything, from smart speakers. They got their new display device. Here's the display device there. You have your children's speakers. The article I threw out was a new Amazon for children tablet. So it's basically an Amazon tablet for kids. You know, so you get that kind of stuff going on, and that starts raising a few problems. So that kind of is part of the issue. So just be aware of that. And since it's been so long since we've done it, I'm sorry, guys. Hey, Alexa, order unicorn meat. Confirmed. There you go. Enjoy your unicorn meat, everybody. Now, California is actually doing something, well, trying to do something that I have been saying we need for a long, long time. And so hell must be freezing over because California has been doing a few things that make sense. Now, this is, of course, assuming all of these things actually get signed into law. But since this does not have anything to do with shall we say, depriving parents of their parental rights, I'm not sure he's going to sign this one. You have to make it, completely lawful for the state to do things to your children for Gavin Newsom to pass it. But let's just say, for sake of argument, he does pass this thing. This is the Delete Act. This is exactly what I've been saying needs to happen in America. So the law applies to any business that knowingly collects and sells to third parties the personal information of a customer with whom the business does not have direct relationship with. Okay, so there's carve-outs for HIPAA and insurance and other things like that. Sells means what it does under the CPRA. It isn't just selling for money, but also for other valuable consideration. If this law passes, you have to register with the CPPA on or before January 31st, 2026. You have to provide a disclosure of your name and contact information, reporting metrics, whether you collect the information of minors, precise geolocation, reproductive health care data, a link to your website detailing how consumers can exercise their CPRA rights, to access, deletion, correction, opt-out, and limited use, and additional metrics under the requests received compiled with or denies median and mean number of days to response, and facilitate deletion by January 1st, 2026, and thereafter access is at least every 45 days in process until all deletion requests are made within 45 days. So basically what California, that is passed through the Senate, now it just has to be signed by the governor. And if this is signed, this means this is exactly what I've been saying America needs overall. America needs the ability to tell all of these data harvesters that none of us know about to go pound sand, because they're profiting off of our data with poor security, poor privacy practices. Nobody knows who these people are, and it's just better if they do not do business. Because I do not want them buying and selling and sharing all of this data. And so this is an example of a really good policy. So let me know your thoughts about that down below. If you want to help support the channel, we do use affiliates. Today we are highlighting DigitalOcean. You can use the affiliate link, tlm.li/DOH. This is going to get you $200 credit, good for 60 days. You can spin up as many little droplets as you like. You can test out VPNs and servers. And if you're using a Plex server, you might think about moving over to DigitalOcean for that, or hey, just move over to DigitalOcean with a new Jellyfin server, because there's some Plex news coming up later on in the show. So with that, guys, you can help support the channel with tlm.li/DOH for DigitalOcean hosting, and that will help support the channel. Now let's move on to security news. First up in security, LastPass. So, of course, we reported it was a couple months ago, a few months ago, middle of the summer, I think, when LastPass's vaults were actually stolen. Now, they're like, these things are like military-grade encryption, which means nothing, by the way. But they're encrypted. People have the vaults. They can attempt to breach them, and we have started to see a little bit of evidence that there is possibly some breaches going on. So the hackers are going, we have all of these LastPass passwords. These vaults, what can we do with these? I got a great idea. Let's spin up some ChatGPT and create phishing emails targeting all these people that we have. And then we can match this to the metadata that we do have, because the metadata was also captured. They know whose databases these are. Now it's just a matter of getting those people to trick them into opening up the database. So information about your account is a phish. So here is what the email is going to look like, and it looks very good. In fact, the only typo I see on a surface, as you can see right, go up from the 4 sentences up, 2 sentences above the bold from the left edge of the red button there, and you'll see there's a little comma out of place. That is the only thing that I see on big surface that looks out of place. And then you just click on that button, confirm your information, which basically gives the hacker access to your information. So here they actually clicked it. This is customer-lastpass.su. I'm sure that sounds legit. So you can go in here, and here's the login. Here's your master password. And then to continue, check your box for an email from LastPass. And then review your information and try again. That is the hackers resetting your password. Yay! And so here's a little bit of information where this comes from. Of course, it's them evil Russians. So, good thing we keep on dumping all our tax money into urine. All right. Well, there's LastPass for you. So Microsoft AI Research Division accidentally exposed 38 terabytes of sensitive data. This includes keys, backup emails, all sorts of fun stuff. So they did this through a misconfiguration on a GitHub. And so over here, we have their public GitHub repository. And then inside of here, they had their private storage account. They had all their open source data, which was intended to expose. So this is what they were wanting people to be able to see and access. And then they had these extra things that, due to misconfiguration, they were also exposing, although they didn't realize it, for 2 years. These are the people that would like to have full collection of all of your data from your system. This is why I use Linux. Inside of there is 30,000 Microsoft Teams messages, secrets, passwords, and private keys, private source code, and AI training data. That'd be interesting to dig through. Be interesting to see what Microsoft is using to train the data. Whoops, we goofed that one up. And public disclosure was September 18th. The first commitment that broke the system was 2020. Over 3 years, this stuff has been leaking to the public. That's exciting. And this company here, Retool, which is a software development platform, they had a security breach, which they are blaming Google Authenticator. So remember, everything is forcing you to do 2FA. MailChimp is now giving me notices for my clients. I log in for my clients. They're like, you need to set security options. I know as of today, I no longer have the ability to say I'll do it later. So, okay, fine, set up 3 security questions. But they're like, pretty soon, these security questions are going to go away. You'll be using SMS. And I will be telling them at that point in time, if they are only requiring SMS, they can just go ahead and delete my account. Because I'm sorry, you're not getting, a marketing company is not getting my phone number. No, I have a couple of birdies that might be flying around to tell you about. It ain't happening. So everyone's using this, and Google Authenticator is by far the most popular 2FA. Well, what did they do? Well, a new feature was making Google Authenticator far more convenient. And so what happens is now Google Authenticator allows multiple different device logins, something new. Well, if you have multiple separate device logins, this means that same breach that's been going around, that one that hacked Matthew Moore's account and Linus Tech Tips and a bunch of other services out there where they just deploy some JavaScript, access all of your site tokens, and clone your browser session into their browser session. Yeah, that means that they are now logged into your Google Authenticator account because they allow you to log in multiple places. And so Retool says that this is what allowed the hackers to gain access to their individual account through a vulnerability, not in their own password, but in their 2FA. So isn't that exciting? Are we so happy about all of this nonsense? I will remind you, anything that requires Google's Authenticator, you can do the same thing in KeePass XC, and I have a video for how to do that on the channel. If you want to help support the channel, we do have a Patreon page, patreon.com/TOMM. You can jump on there, help support at any level. Right now, this is giving you access to the live streams for the supporter stream. You can be a guest on there. Or yesterday, we didn't have enough bandwidth to do an actual stream, so we did just do a hangout. So we did a big supporter hangout. So we were able to do that. We also, though, have short stories coming out once a month related to current trends in technology, science fiction stories about what happens if these things were to occur in our world. So our second one of those is out. It's a doozy. We have and that'll give you access to either read it or listen to the audiobook. And then we'll have an exclusive video kind of about that kind of stuff. All the logic that went into it, we'll release that video. And that one's probably going to go about, I don't know. I don't think I'm going to do it tomorrow. Probably next week we'll release that. Will be a supporter exclusive video over there. So those are the types of things we do on all of our platforms. We have Patreon, Subscribestar, Locals, and Think Life Media. So with that, let's head on over to AI news next. First up in AI, a director tried and failed to use an AI Hans Zimmer to create the soundtrack. Hans Zimmer actually did listen to it and said, not too bad. I mean, things I do different. So they go on to talk about the fact that the AI can grab Hans Zimmer's legendary soundtracks and do some form of duplicating or replicating of them, but what it couldn't do is it couldn't draw from his own personal inspiration or the world around him. And that's really the thing he's trying to do. So this was Gareth Edwards, who directed Rogue One. In this one, the movie was The Creator, which is specifically about artificial intelligence. So having artificial intelligence score a movie about artificial intelligence, I got to say, is a valid use of artificial intelligence. So, they listened to it and they said it was 7 out of 10, but they said if you go to Hans Zimmer for a 10 out of 10. Hans Zimmer listened to it and said, oh, that's okay, interesting, but he ended up hiring Hans Zimmer to do the score for the movie anyway. So I'm sure the score is good. Whether or not the movie's good, I don't know. All right. AI-generated books is forcing Amazon to cap ebook publications to 3 per day. This is just to help protect against the abuse. Frankly, I think they need to have better safeguards. I would like to see rules that are going to prevent AI-generated books from showing up on Amazon, because anywhere AI-generated content appears, it completely cheapens everything going on. And so I think that really is a fundamental problem that we need to look at. We need to consider that AI-generated books is not helpful. For the most part, they keep these up. There's no specific rule about it, and they're not coming out with a hard-handed thing. They're just glad I'm not in charge of it. They did take out a couple books. One of the books was about mushroom foraging that had potentially dangerous advice, like, hey, this is a perfectly good mushroom to eat, and it was highly toxic. Things like that. Things that were completely wrong. Travel books reportedly AI generated and also taken down. Probably the one that's like, hey, you need to visit the food bank if you're vacationing in Canada, because that's an amazing place. You got to go eat at the food bank. So, but for anybody doing this, like, I personally don't see this as a huge limitation for any legitimate author or publisher, being an author and a publisher myself, because even if I had enough volume to be publishing up to 3 books per day, man, that would be exhausting. And I'd probably be having special escalated privilege with Amazon at that point anyway. So I agree with them that this is probably not going to help the people legitimately using the service, but I would like them to see, I'd like to see them completely ban AI exclusive generated content. I don't mind if you're using AI to edit stuff. I have an author working on a book right now that's using ChatGPT for some portions of editing and stuff, not writing it, but some portions of editing. And, that's fine. I don't really have a problem with that. But when you're just like giving a few prompts and letting the AI spit something out, and then the problem is that a legitimate person is going to take that and manipulate it and edit it and adjust it and things like that. The problem is these scammers that are just trying to make a lot of money, they're not doing that. And so if you ban the AI generated content, you're not hurting the legitimate writers and authors and publishers very much, but you are completely killing the scammers. The problem is, how do you distinguish between them? And that is the ultimate problem. There's another story, didn't include it this week, that basically says, OpenAI says, yeah, the AI generator detectors don't work. So AI has been unleashed on the world. There's nothing we can do. Congratulations, we got here. Now we just have to stand here and watch it destroy our society. Well, Google's AI assistant can now read your emails, plan your trips, and has a double check your answers section. So this is Bard, of course. Now, the article says it's Google's version of ChatGPT. I don't think it's actually ChatGPT, though. I believe it is something else. I could be wrong about that. Just because ChatGPT is part owner with Microsoft, and they definitely did not want to share the success of that with Google. Which is also why Bard is traditionally not nearly as good as ChatGPT, because it's not built on as good of a framework. Although I don't follow the creation of Google Bard, it could be based on it. I don't know. I know it's like it. That's the best I can tell you for sure. Now, this new one gives you a double check button where if you suspect something's goofy in the information they're giving you, you can click the button and it will do a Google search, probably using AI to confirm that it did give you its right information. So the question is, who watches the watchers? Well, the watchers are watching the watchers. Who watches the AI? The AI is watching the AI. Good to know. I hope you feel confident now, handing the world over this stuff. But it can also scan through your emails and look for things to give you ideas or whatever else. It can look at your documents in your drive. Basically, it is effectively that stage 2 of the Selfish Ledger. So if you have not watched the Selfish Ledger in a while, go watch that. Because, phase 2, it is now digging through all of your stuff, giving you suggestions to fill in the gaps. That is phase 2 of the Selfish Ledger. So, yeah, there's that. Let me know what you think about that one, because that sounds terrifying to me. And, of course, UK Watchdog tells us what we already knew, but hey, at least it's good to get confirmation from the competition watchdog. So risks include high prices as well as proliferation of false information, fraud, and fake reviews. So the problem is that your typical people that are like super idealistic. Oh, we love everybody. Human nature's all great. We all need to sing hands. Why can't we all just hold hands and sing kumbaya? They're missing the fundamental principle, and that is that the human heart is desperately wicked. Okay, we strive to find ways of doing evil. Not necessarily that every one of us is 100% evil at all times in every circumstance, but the natural bend and inclination towards mankind is evil. That is a Christian doctrine I completely support. I completely agree with. Okay, and so because it is evil, despite we have potential for great positive coming out of any of these big technologies, we have to weigh out, do the negative risks outweigh the positives? And in this case, this UK competition watchdog is saying, I think that the risks of this far outweigh the rewards, and the problem with that is we've already let this out of the box, so there's nothing we can do about it. All right. So they made the warning after an initial review of the foundation models, the technology that underpins the AI tools such as the ChatGPT, chatbot, and image generators. They looked at the emergence of it and triggered debate over it. And basically, it's dealing with white-collar jobs are now being displaced. You know, the Hollywood writers can stay on strike forever, and thanks to some new government funding, they probably could stay on forever, and then the studios just start writing things with AI. No big deal. Not quite as good, but who cares? It's cheaper. It makes us more money, because, especially like the Star Wars stuff. They just spin out Star Wars stuff, no matter how much dribbling nonsense it is, because they know that the Star Wars fanboys are just going to buy it, no matter if it's good or bad or whatever else. It's that collector part of us. We got to have everything in the series. We got to dump all of our money in the series. We got to keep supporting Netflix for the series. Never mind the fact, it's not Netflix, that's Disney. We got to keep on funding Disney just to get the series. I cannot miss out on what Baby Yoda's up to. It's a bunch of nonsense. But what these guys are saying is because of this, it's going to drive up prices. It's going to displace a lot of jobs. It's going to have a lot more negative consequences than it's going to have anything positive. And that happens to be part of the issue. And I do realize that once again, I actually used my, next affiliate that I actually don't have a banner for. I don't know why I never created a banner for them yet, or do I? No. Oh, well, we'll go on with it anyway. So Siteground. So Siteground is one of the affiliates I have for web hosting. So they do have really good plans. They have good local support. So whatever region you're calling from, you're going to get support in that area. And overall, I've been impressed with what their offerings are. Their sites work well, things like that. So with Siteground, tlm.li/SGH. That's for Siteground hosting. tlm.li/SGH. And that will help support the channel and get you good web hosting as well. Now we're going to move on to business. First up in business news, anybody using a Plex server, make sure it's not on Hetzner. For whatever reason, Plex has targeted Hetzner and said, well, if you have a Plex server on Hetzner, we're simply going to block it. And even if you're just using your Plex server on the internet to access movies that you legitimately own, Plex servers still have to check into Plex before doing anything. And so they're effectively blocking you from watching your own movie on your own self-hosted server because they're like, Hetzner has more piracy than we know what to do with. And so they're just literally blocking every IP address that belongs to Hetzner. Why are they not doing other people? I don't know. But just a word of warning. If you have a Plex server on Hetzner, you probably want to either move that Plex server or better yet, just use Jellyfin. I have a good Jellyfin tutorial. It'll walk you through setting it up and using it on multiple devices. Use Jellyfin because it's way better than Plex. It does not require you to register with some central server, and they're not going to do all sorts of fun, crazy stuff like monitor what you're doing. Now, they do say they don't know what titles you're watching unless you do a bug report or something like that, but basically, they are still requiring you to check home. But yeah, if your Plex server is on Hetzner, it won't be after October 12th. After October 12th, your Plex server is going to disappear. So, of course, one of the best things you might be able to do is just migrate it over to a Jellyfin, keeping it there, or migrate over to something else and use that. But I'm just going to remind you guys as well, please use your servers with legal content. Don't be pirating a bunch of stuff. That's how things like this happen. You know, when homeless fools hang out in the Walmart parking lot for weeks on end, that messes up me who's looking for a place to park overnight. So, you know, it's always the bad apples that ruin it for the good bunch, but that's the case. Well, as bad as WordPress is, we have to give them praise where praise is due. WordPress rejects 86% of all DMCA takedown notices because they're literally sitting here saying, yeah, this is all low quality crap that appears to us to just be copyright trolls trying to do all sorts of things, take things down. So they basically said if somebody issues them a complaint, they're like, yeah, bring your receipts. Oh, you don't have receipts? Go away. So as much as I definitely don't like hosting sites on WordPress.com, and I'm not a huge fan of WordPress anymore because they've lost their base. They've went crazy. They do get a lot of DMCA takedown notices, and for the most part, they just fly some flipping birds around because they're just like, no. Aside from the continued drop in takedown volume, the high rejection rate clearly stands out. Of all notices received, only 14% result in any content removals. The vast majority are rejected for a variety. In the reported period, 77% of all notices were rejected because they were incomplete. An additional 9% labeled as abusive and dismissed for that reason. The remaining 14 were processed as usual. So at least WordPress is doing something that other tech companies should probably emulate. You know, the fact that we have entire troll farms online that simply go around and flag perfectly legal content on videos just to mess with channels or try and steal their revenue. I'm sorry, YouTube needs to put down a firm grip and say, you say it's theirs, let's see the evidence, and if they miss one mistake, they're banned. Ban them for 6 months from making any further copyright claims because clearly they're not doing their job. WordPress is at least doing this right. So I have to praise WordPress for this one. Still would not recommend building your site over there, but there you have it. This company is, I apparently have my titles mixed up. Oh, well, this company is opening the world's first humanoid robot factory capable of building 10,000 robots per year. I'm getting iRobot / Clone Wars vibes from this one. And listen to all of this WEF nonsense. Agility Robotics announced they are beginning construction of have already been proven to be adept replacement for the repetitive loading maneuvers warehouse workers have to perform, except they don't get injured, tired, or paid overtime. So isn't it so wonderful that the worker crisis is coming? Agility's goal is to create a viable, affordable workforce to replace human beings. Yay! Sounds awesome. Damian Shelton, he says that their robots will solve difficult problems in today's workforce, like injuries, burnout, high turnover, and unfillable labor gaps. While customers can expect robot orders to begin fulfillment in 2024, by 2025, the factory will be producing 10,000 humanoid robots per year. And yes, they do plan on the digits to make more digits. There will soon be an army of these autonomous humanoid robots walking around, loading and unloading boxes on shelves like an army. That sounds familiar. Someone called Jar Jar Binks to save us. Misa, give up! Misa, give up! Then there you go. A worker crisis is coming. The very thing that we have been warning about is now like people are actually saying the quiet part out loud. Well, the last article, sorry, our titles did not align with our usual show format, but I thought this one was a far more interesting article. Terria developer Relogic is giving $100,000 to 2 open source gaming engines among the Unity debacle. So Unity is changing its pricing scheme, which is going to require... Should have dug a little bit further. A Unity Personal and Unity Plus subscriber, for instance, will pay 20 cents per install after reaching $200,000 in revenue from the past 12 months and 200,000 lifetime installs. So not only do you have to subscribe to the software perpetually, now you have to pay when people play your game with Unity. And so this is causing a lot of issues, causing a little bit of backtrack. And so Terria developer Relogic has stepped in to promote and support alternative open source gaming engines that developers can use instead. In a post on X, the website formerly known as Twitter, it's not such a shorter name, Relogic called Unity's move predatory and unequivocally condemned the fee changes proposed, as well as the underhanded way they were rolled out. Oh, another factor is they changed their terms of service and took down the old ones so you can't refer back to it. After saying for years that you can keep the terms of service that existed when your game was released, but they rolled that back too. So now they are they're looking at promoting a few new systems out there to replace Unity and get more people into the open source software. So that is all really good stuff. Well, if you want to help support the channel, we do have a locals page, switchtolinux.locals.com. We talked earlier about the science fiction short stories on Patreon. Those are also over on locals. So you can find all that information and some other stuff over there on the locals channel, switchtolinux.locals.com. And now let's head on over to your favorite place and mine, SillyVille, because we got some sillies going on. All right, the first one is non-tech related. I like throwing one non-tech related one in here just for the fun, because welcome to Third World Philadelphia. Heavily armed guards are now required to secure the Cheesesteak restaurant. So Philadelphia, if you know, it is the city of brotherly love, but Philadelphia is also known for its cheesesteaks. And so in this cheesesteak store where you can go and get some amazing cheesesteaks, of course, they were worried about looters and robbers because that's happening everywhere. So now they are bringing on armed guards who are armed with body armor and assault rifles specifically to guard the cheesesteaks. And so these agents are actually police and armed private security guards, all licensed within the city, and they are now standing by guarding Jim West steaks and hoagies. Our lines are down the block, so while you're standing here connecting with other people, you may not know it, we have security right here just to keep you guys safe. There you have it. So, firearms are now required to keep cheesesteaks safe in Philadelphia because they refuse to lock anybody up for actually committing crime. If you locked up the people for committing crimes, you would not have to put armed guards with rifles guarding the cheesesteak stores. Okay, Philadelphia, get your priorities straight. Lock the guys up so the cheesesteak can be liberated. All righty. Moving on to the tech-related SillyVille, telling AI model to take a deep breath causes math scores to soar in a study. So, of course, the regular idiots are running around like, if we even tell robots to take a break, they are going to do better. Oh my God, even robots need to take a break. That's not what's happening, okay? As a former science professor, I will give you 2 hypotheses as to what is going on here. Now, what they're saying is they're looking at the accuracy. Now, what I didn't find in the article is, are we talking about precision or are we talking about accuracy? Those two terms are often conflated. Okay. Precision is how well you know the answer out. Accuracy is how well your answer is within the scope of the correct answer. So you have to understand that first. This article does not talk about that because they failed my freshman chemistry class when I was teaching it. But they're saying take a deep breath and work on this step by step. They think that taking a deep breath is what caused the AI to do better. It's not. There are two reasons why this is probably the case, and these people, like modern ignoramuses graduating from the school of idiocracy, do not understand. Here they are. The first one is if you give a robot the whole problem at once, it solves it as a unified whole. In so doing, the first thing is if there is an error in the AI, it's going to mess up the order of operations. And if it messes up the order of operations, you will get clearly just the wrong answer. But if we're talking about precision, that one will affect accuracy. If we're talking about precision, which it sounds like the article is getting at, telling it to do the problem, take a breath and do it step by step. You're telling it to do each step in the order at once. When you do each step at once, you eliminate rounding errors and get a more precise answer. So it's not that robots need to take a deep breath. You've got to breathe and do this step by step to get better results. Even the robot has to stop and take a breath. No, you idiot. When you tell it to do the math problem step by step, you get a more precise answer. You can try this yourself. Get a complicated math problem. Let's say there's 5 steps in it. Plug it all into your calculator at once, write down your answer, and then do it every single step of the way. Rounding properly, you're going to get a slightly different answer. It's because the prompt step by step is what caused the precision of the answer to go up. But these guys don't understand that, so they just think telling a robot to take a breath does better in math, because they are also idiots. All right. This is classic. How new tech is helping people circumvent digital authoritarianism. This sounds great. We're going to solve censorship, right? I mean, we all need to sign up for this kind of stuff. It's a new Google product. A new Google product is designed to help us circumvent I almost said circumvent circumcision. God. This show's all screwed up. Circumvent censorship. So Google is now interested in helping circumvent censorship. Really? How's it doing this? Well, MIT is apparently also idiots. So how are they doing this? We have this all giant blah, 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 blah. Censorship. It's bad. Censorship's bad. Help us, Google. Help us. What is the new product? It's called Google Jigsaw. A team within the larger company, more socially oriented work is intended to make all of this easier, avoiding censorship easier. What is it? It's a VPN product. So Google wants you to embed their VPN product into your product to avoid censorship. That is going to force every single thing you do on Google to be seen by Google. Everything your app is now owned by Google. Everything passes through Google's servers. This is a way for Google to harvest everything. That's crazy. This is just as bad as Facebook's VPN. Guys, they are doing this because VPNs have been sold as the privacy thing to solve all the problems. VPNs are not a privacy tool. Stop teaching that nonsense. And now we're like, VPN for privacy, VPN for... So now Google is going to give us a new product to avoid censorship. I am streaming this on 5 places because of Google censorship. Let that sink in, Google. Very fascinating. I would love to have just kept the channel straight on YouTube, straight with Google. No problem at all. You made me stream to 5 places because of your censorship. And now you want everybody to feed every bit of data through your servers. So what? You can better censor them, I bet. But hey, at least we won't have any of that Russian or Chinese misinformation. They're doing a good job of censoring that. And on to our final SillyVille article for today. Google Maps allegedly sent a man across a bridge that collapsed 9 years ago, and his widow is now suing the company. Okay. As a crazy psycho who drives around this whole country in a van, let me tell you something. You always vet your path. And you make sure you watch the road. Okay? I can tell you, I had a case where I was like, the GPS really wanted me to go up that thing. I'm like, I don't know about if I should go up that thing. So I get out of the van and I walk up the little thing GPS wants me to go. There is a cliff and a lake on the other side. It was night, for sure. But I get out, I take a flashlight, I go, oh crap, I ain't going down there. I think we'll go around. So, you always vet your roads. You don't rely on Google Maps. And this guy says it was pitch black. It was rainy. He stayed late to clean up after a birthday party. He trusted the machine and crossed the bridge blind. This is not Google's problem. His Gladiator Jeep plunged into the river below. Yeah. A year later, his widow, who had driven home with their 2 daughters in a separate car, is suing Google for negligence and wrongful death. Yeah. Funny, I should mention that the bridge in question was on a private road that belonged to a company that went bankrupt and dissolved in the 1990s, so the road's maintenance went with it. I do like, Google released the statement. We have the deepest sympathies for the Paxson family. Our goal is to provide accurate routing information and maps, and we are reviewing this lawsuit. Yeah. Now, there is another statement in here. I can't find it right off the top, but it was exactly this. This does not give me confidence in getting into a self-driving car. Okay? The self-driving cars don't even have eyes to see. They just go because the map says to go. They might look for something in the way. I mean, if there was a barrier there the guy drove through, yeah, that's probably a fault as well. But holy crap. Here's another fun lesson, though. Don't rely on your Google map to get you there. You have to stop and vet your routes. You have to stay on main roads. Especially, I've been seeing more and more signs, especially in, what states were those in? I think Colorado was one of them. But there were a lot more, a lot of the states that have a lot more national forests and mountains. What's happening is people will trust the maps and then not vet them and then turn down a Forest Service road, which will technically get you there. But sometimes these roads diverge into like grassland and you don't know where you're going. And if you're not prepared, you just blindly following the map. And so there's literally signs on a lot of these ways. Do not blindly follow your GPS down this road. Like the fact we even need that is just like baffling to me, but what it is. So what it is. All right. Well, there is our news program for today. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you all next time. Thank you for watching this video from Switched to Linux. This channel would not be possible without the backing of the program supporters scrolling on the screen now. You can be a supporter at Patreon at patreon.com/TOMM or at thinklifemedia.com. I also want to thank the open source community who creates such excellent software that makes producing this show possible. Please remember to support your software communities. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.